Welcome to the Modern CPA Success Show, where we're 100% focused on helping accounting firms achieve success. If you're an accounting firm owner who wants to learn how to provide virtual CFO services, then this podcast is for you.
Hello, and welcome to today's podcast. First, it wouldn't be a great podcast without starting and talking about Jody's awesome new microphone. So Jody's got the microphone going today, and I know Jody isn't normally on this podcast, so I wanted to introduce him. Obviously, he's our founder and owner, but Jody, welcome to the show, and let's talk a little bit about your microphone.
Yeah, thanks. I appreciate that. I got my new prized possession here. It's the Yeti Blue. So I'm getting tired of the hair deal with the headsets like you see with Jamie there. So I thought I would invest a little bit, get a podcast microphone. And so now I have that, and it's working pretty well. At least I hope it is out there. So definitely a good investment for sure.
So for those that are just
and
listening
it looks
to this,
cool, by the way. It looks really cool in the picture too.
I was going to say, for those who are just listening to this on a podcast application, you can follow us on our YouTube account and come and check out Jody's microphone and my hair sticking up if you want to. But okay, now that we got that out of the way, let's talk about today's topics. So we are joined once again by Dave Danek, who is our awesome director of tax. And we had a couple podcasts with him earlier, and we've heard, we want Dave, more Dave, more Dave. And of course, he's been pretty busy these last 5 months. So I couldn't bring him back, but now that tax season is officially over, we can bring him back. And we're excited to talk about Dave about some of the lessons we learned during this tax season. So welcome to the show, Dave.
Yeah, thanks for having me back, Jamie. And that's the first lesson that you brought up, that you couldn't talk to me for 5 months. I remember when it used to be 3.5 months of tax season. Last year, I went till July 15th. This year, I went to May 15th, and it has been an 18-month stretch for all the tax nerds out there. So if you're listening and you are one of those tax nerds, I hear you, I feel you. It's been a rough go at it. So take a break, take a deep breath. People have been relying on us for a lot of these changes. It's been hard. The work will always be here. So again, take a break and we'll have a busy summer ahead for sure.
So you doing anything fun for your break, David?
Yeah, of course. Well, we've got our company retreat, which is going to be a really cool one for a remote company to get to meet our teammates. That's going to be huge, but just a lot of baseball. So that's great for our family and for me. I love summer. That's why I became a tax accountant, because I love summer. I love being on the lake. But then tax season ends in July. So
you did say baseball. You're not playing baseball, right?
Oh no, I am the esteemed manager of the T-ballers and the rookie leaguers. So it is a little brutal at times, but we're getting to an age where the game is becoming much more exciting.
You go from managing a tax team to managing a T-ball team. Similarities?
Yes, but I shouldn't name them in public. So that's good.
I was going to say it's pretty fun now, because I think for the last 5 years, Dave and I have worked together, and I'm constantly talking about my boys basketball team, and I can kind of see him starting to nod off. And now he's a little more interested in those conversations than he used to be. He's like, wait a second, now I get it.
I'm much more on the baseball side of it than the basketball side of it. So that's good. So.
Those youth sports. Okay, so that's the first lesson learned is take some time off, relax. I think a lot of tax CPAs know that out there in the world. But okay, let's talk about lessons learned, especially specific for companies that we're giving guidance to, and the ones that are really looking to be more in this VCFO space. So let's go down to the next lesson. What would you say?
Before you do that, can you kind of give a recap of how many tax returns we actually do, so it can give kind of some color to your answer?
Yeah, we're at about 700 returns. The mix is about 250 corporate partnership, and then the rest are individuals. And I would say of that 700, I would say about 65% of them are related to our CFO clients, and the other ones are more from the standalone returns from our legacy clients, that we would call them, that we still do their individual returns.
And how many multi-state returns do we do roughly?
Of our business returns, I would say about half of them are becoming multi-state. And that's certainly one of the lessons that we're learning is that once the pandemic hit, everyone's remote now and their teams are remote. So the nexus is becoming so much more important from the staffing side of things. And then also, then our clients' customers are saying they can grow their net to be more multi-state, even from a sales perspective. So the nexus is becoming a huge issue on the multi-state side. And that's also kind of hard too. When you used to, Jody, you remember when we were just in Indiana, you start becoming pretty good at Indiana business taxes and the Indiana tax code pretty well. Well, now when our clients are all over the US, man, I don't know Oklahoma tax as much as I should. So, building a team that is eager to dive into some of these multi-state tax issues is one of our lessons, is saying, as we're building out a bigger tax manager position, like, boy, I've got to start saying, hey, you have to be ready. When I'm interviewing people, I have to be candid with them to say, you're going to be exposed to some things that might make you feel a little uncomfortable that you've never had to do before, but you have to be ready to dive in for it and say, hey, just get your elbows dirty by diving into some of the state tax code. And that's, for tax professionals, that's just going to be a new reality that you're going to be pressed on, is looking at multi-state issues.
And I think on that point too, I think it's important for our listeners to know how our tax department is set up. So to David's point, we do tax returns for our clients if they want us to, as well as for the owners of those clients. But those tax returns are not done by our CFOs and not done by our accountants anymore. So that's a change we made a couple of years ago, which I think that's one of the complexities you saw this year, Dave, is in the past, we had one accountant working on eight or nine accounts and responsible for their taxes, and they could dig into those things a little bit more. And now, obviously, it's a little bit bigger team on a smaller team on your side, having to dig across states, across borders, doing all that stuff. And then I think the other important thing to note is, not all accountants understand taxes. Even when I was a CFO, my tax experience is very, very limited. It was doing some, it was FAS 142s back in my audit days, and that's about it. But I think that's it's you can't really lean on the team as much as we used to be because of the way we're structured now. So a lot more has fallen on your team.
Well, we've learned a lot. This is the lessons learned. So this is a multi-year lesson. But when we first started going into the CFO level services and expanding our CFO team, we wanted to educate or have our CFOs be educated in tax because it just comes up naturally in those conversations. A lot of business decisions need to have the tax ramifications measured. So we wanted our CFOs to say, hey, in these meetings, if it pivots to taxes, we want you to have some base knowledge. And in my opinion, the best way to get some tax knowledge is to make a mistake on the tax return. And, when you're preparing it for the first time, then have someone teach you. Well, that was terrible for efficiency. I was spending my time teaching 6 different people on tax software that they were not used to using, tax forms that they were not used. So we had to pivot to build the tax team out to be the ones preparing the return. And that's our next shift, is saying, building out that manager level that is going to be the assistant to the CFO from a tax perspective. And they are going to own the relationship or the baseline tax information for these clients. And then as tax director, for more of the strategic thinking, loop in the director or some other team members on that. But we've had to shift that's a great lesson learned, is that we've had to be flexible on how we structure, how we're doing our returns, and it's going to change again this year. So flexibility is totally a part of our MO here.
So real quick, you kind of hinted a little bit about it, but you mentioned tax manager. So what does the tax manager do in relation, because again, every firm's a little different. What does our tax manager do?
Our tax manager is going to be the one that owns the relationship from a tax perspective for our CFO clients. And that means meeting with the client on a quarterly basis to ensure that estimated tax payments are made, tax registrations are in order. And then as the tax planning season ramps up, they're going to be the one to work with the CFO to say, what's happened this year that our tax team needs to be cognizant of, that we can ensure that we're ready for any planning scenarios coming up this year. And then they work with our staff tax team members on the preparation side, do the first level of review, technical review, and then we have the analytical review on top of it from our director level from the tax, and then communicate results to the client. And then
So they're
we're
really
back.
client facing.
Then we're back, and then we're in the next year.
So it's truly a client facing position, right? So they're meeting with the CFO, but they're also delivering the news with the hard tax planners in the fourth quarter with the CFO's clients, that type of thing. They're involved in those meetings.
Yeah, I would like them in these meetings.
Mm-hmm.
Our CFOs are exposed to a lot of issues that they need to handle with their team. And I think it's okay that the client is exposed to one more person on Summit side that just says, hey, I'm your point of contact for tax matters. Because half the time, or more than half the time, if client goes to CFO, hey, I got this tax notice, what's the CFO going to do? They just pass it off to the tax manager or to the tax director. So let's cut the middle person out. We are a team. We communicate it totally that we're an integrated team, and we meet behind the scenes as a team.
So you actually have the tax manager involved in the onboarding then to get to know the client from the very beginning, or is that not the case?
So far, they have not been a part of that, but they will be going forward as we grow out. We've had capacity issues, where our we're building the tax manager position right now to be able to fit the mold that I just said. But with 120 clients, what our lesson learned was the tax manager couldn't do 120 clients this past tax season. So that's why we're hiring another tax manager. And then 60 is very much of a manageable thing for 60 corporate returns, plus managing the owners and things like that.
Yeah. So again, you say we're looking
as
for
much as I want to say we have it all figured out. Nope, we learned a lot this tax season.
So we are looking for a tax manager right now then?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Yes, we are. So if any listeners are out there that are eager to work for in my opinion, a really cool company, and that is eager to learn, here we are.
Sounds good.
Check our website out, summitcpa.net.
Yeah, you can definitely apply through our website. That's they're on there, and you can click right in. And our app, just so everybody knows, our application process. And I think we've talked about this in other podcasts. Our application process is pretty thorough. We want to make sure we get the right people in the doors. So it's not just give me your name, let's talk. There's gonna be a lot of testing and stuff that goes with it. But we are definitely looking for a great tax manager to join Dave's team. And like you said, what we learned this year. One of those things is that 120 clients to have those relationships with is too much. So we are constantly trying to find that right number. And so, and I think I know from the CFO side, when we made this first shift that we talked about earlier of our CFOs are responsible for those relationships and those returns, moving that to the tax team was a big relief. And I think bringing in this additional tax manager who can handle the relationship is a relief for them as well. And I'm sure it's a relief for you too, Dave, because I know there's plenty of times where I pull you into those calls and say, hey, we're talking XYZ client today, and we're talking taxes, and I just need you there because I don't know what they're going to ask, and I want to make sure you're there for it. And so I'm sure they're looking forward to that as well.
Yeah, and Dave, hours wise, is it like a traditional accounting firm? How many hours does a typical tax manager work during busy season?
We're at 55 is what we're projecting our managers to work, and the one manager we did have was around that around that time frame. So I don't want to be totally naive.
Hours.
Yeah, 55 per week. I can't be totally naive and say, hey, we're not like any other accounting firm that has a busy season. No, we have a busy season because we have a set amount of work in a compressed amount of time, right? So there is some of that work, but it's not the 80. That's where I came from when Jody hired me, and I said, hey man, I physically can't do this anymore. Like when my wife, I remember her saying, Dave, you fell asleep mid-conversation one time. Like, oh,
been there, done that.
Yeah, I was like, okay, time for a change.
Oh yeah. Yeah, my wife hated me during tax season. Hated me.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was like, I had to reintroduce myself every May. Hey, I'm Jody Grundon. Nice to meet you.
Yeah. That's right.
Yeah, we during, I know it wasn't tax season, but busy season for me, we'd always go to a lot of movies because at least we were hanging out, but like I could just like turn my brain off and not think and just sit there and like veg out and watch a movie. So that was always my busy season. Like,
Oh, dude, I turn my brain off and don't think all the time, so that wouldn't be
we
that'd be a
know.
normal.
Are you interested in offering virtual CFO services at your firm or scaling your existing service offerings? The Virtual CFO Playbook, How to Land $60,000 a Year Clients and Provide a Killer Client Experience, is an online series of modules that will equip you with essential tools for creating and delivering scalable VCFO services. These approaches have helped Summit CPA grow from $500,000 to upwards of $5 million in revenue over the past decade. If you're ready to grow your firm, visit summitcpa.net/VCFO Playbook to enroll now.
So Dave, we started going down the people route a little bit. So what else led us to the decision to hire a new tax manager other than just capacity? Are there any other things we saw from the people front that we really needed help with?
Well, on the people front, I think a lot of people listening are going to recognize this. There's so much education that we have to give to our team now, especially over the past 18 months. Every economic incentive that has gone through over the past 18 months with the CARES Act has been related to taxes. PPP, our CFO teams did an excellent job on prepping those applications. But then on the forgiveness front, waiting to see how states were going to react to how do you tax the forgiveness and things of that delayed a ton of our returns this year, which created some inefficiencies. But then we also have to educate our team to say, okay, this client is in California. How's California dealing with PPP forgiveness? Can you look into that for me? Well, I've never been to California. Well, hey, we got to do a little bit of research. So that was a difficulty of just getting the team educated on how this is going to play in. And then the next element is now with these ERC credits that are coming through. So people think tax, it's a tax credit. Well, no, it's a payroll tax credit.
Mhm.
We don't process payroll tax returns. That's what a payroll provider is, but they're coming back to our team and the CFO team to say, can you run these calculations? Well, don't you file this payroll tax return? No, I don't touch 941s. So working out how to most efficiently get those amendments done, and then just diving into those regulations to say, how do we best serve our clients? And it's just a whole new ball game of tax law that we felt like we just finished grasping the concepts of the Tax Cuts and Jobs Act in 2017. And then everyone was hit the pandemic a different way. The tax accountants, we got hit in our lovely way. So we dealt with it. We serve our clients well, but man, it was a lot of education that we had to go through.
Yeah, with that ERC credit, I mean, are we doing those in house, or are we farming those out?
No, we're gonna refer a lot of the work out. We just spent the first half of this podcast saying how we're trying to grow our tax team. So the capacity to go through this is a little limited. So we're looking. We have some partners that are doing the calculations for our team, and we feel that's how our clients are best served on it.
Mm-hmm.
I think the other thing that I've noticed from the CFO front. So again, when we put that when we started offering that service, one of the nice parts about offering, and the reason that a lot of clients end up adding us for tax services is because we have so many touches, right? Like we're talking to clients every week for most of our clients, if not every week, every other week. And so, it just makes sense for us to do the taxes. And so I think the not having enough people helps the communication break down a little bit there, both to the clients and to our internal team. And so, if I'm in a call with the client as a CFO, and one of the things I'm saying is, hey, we're on top of your taxes because we're talking to you every week, and they ask me a tax question. I'm like, I'm not sure. Let me go check with Dave on that. Like, I think it doesn't look like that's the service we're providing. So by adding this extra tax person, it's going to help us be better communicators when it comes to tax, because we're going to be having someone watching us instead of us, the ones reaching out to the tax team.
Yeah, I agree. And it's a blend of a lot of different tools. So yeah, the people tools. And then also last summer working with our IT, or when we were building out our reporting tool to say, hey, let's have something flash in front of the client each month that says this is what your projected taxable income was going to be. I think was a really good move on our part, just to say, hey, even if it's June, it's not perfect, but here's what we're seeing based upon what's happened and what we're working on your forecast with. Because, forecasting is our big tool. So if this is how you feel, this is how this year is going to go, guess what? Here's the tax impact. So we can work on our cash flow to make sure that we're reserved properly.
And I think that's huge. Yeah, I think it's huge, right? Because you're really kind of getting the client used to, hey, yeah, I'm making money, so here's the tax situation I'm going to be, versus I'm making money at the end of the year. Well, no one told me that I was going to be paying this amount of tax. It's like, well, yeah, we did. Every single month from the last 12 months, we showed you, where you're at, which kind of gets me to a question that it's probably a dangerous question for me to even ask you, but were there any surprises from clients this year, or did everything pretty much fall in line with how we had forecasted their tax situation?
I would say, well, there's always surprises. You always want to do things perfectly. I would say we had a lot fewer surprises this year, and where I think where our hustle certainly has to start in the last 2 weeks of December, and that's where, like, when we're working with the CFO saying, please tell us if there's any huge deposits coming in.
Yeah.
Like sometimes you can't help it, hey, I received this big payment from our largest customer on December 28th. So I can tell you up and through, and I can tell you in October how we're looking, but if that payment comes in, then our team has to really gel to make sure. That's where education comes in. Mm-hmm. So CFO from a cash flow perspective is going to say, awesome, good job. But they have to have that light bulb go off in the back saying, they just received a $500,000 deposit. Is there going to be a tax impact there? But no, having that sorry, Jamie.
No, go ahead. You're good.
Having that thing flash up on our reporting each month certainly makes it top of mind. And it's a lot better than the alternative of saying no one's told me. But we all know. I could tell them someone that they pay taxes 12 months out of the year, but they always forget too.
Yeah,
I gotta pay this.
And the other thing that changed for us too, and again, not only just that one report, but all of our reports. And one of the things that our reports, we made a conscious decision to focus on is we used to really focus on the forecast and really focus on the actuals, but then we'd kind of forget about the year end. And again, we knew we had to talk about it, but now our reports are really emphasizing that. And so the fact that you said we're starting to look at that year end tax report in June is because we're looking at what we call the plan throughout the year. So it's now we're really focusing on that. We're saying, okay, what do we think the year end income statement is going to look like? But not only that, but the balance sheet. I remember just last year before we were doing that, like Dave would get on us all the time and be like, okay, let's use the year end balance sheet to look at what the forecast is or the tax payment is going to look like. And we haven't even looked at AR for the forecast yet. And it's this weird number. And now that we're focusing on that number every month, I think that's probably one of the reasons you've had less surprises as well, is we've really shifted to talking about that plan and telling the client, okay, this is how March turned out. Now let's take a look at the end of the year and see what we're seeing there. And so we're really focusing on that third number. And I think that's made a big difference for us.
Yeah, I've certainly seen improvement on our service level just on talking about it, because it's easy to forecast, say, well, we're going to think AR is going to be 400,000 at the end. Well, Why'd you say that? Well, that's what it was last year. I was like, but I mean, this has a big impact on how we're thinking from a tax perspective. So it's a little bit more effort, but I think certainly it's a lot more accurate, and the clients appreciate it.
Great. So we are almost to the end of this episode here. So I want to throw our email address out there. So we have Dave on here, so I don't need any more Dave emails. People saying, I want more of Dave. I don't want more of Dave. But if you need to send that, we'll get him, bring him on here again. But we're always looking for topic ideas, for guests. So make sure you can email us. And that address is cpa@summitcpa.net. Again, cpa@summitcpa.net. So we're always looking for you. So let's make sure to reach out to us. And a couple minutes left here. So I'm going to start with you, Dave. Any final thoughts on tax seasons and stuff that we take away from it?
Well, no, we survived, and I think we thrived, actually. So I'm excited for the summer to kind of plan for next year's. So that's big. And guess what? It sounds like we're going to have a new tax code. So rinse and repeat. So if anyone knows what capital gain rates are going to be this year, let me know. It'd make our jobs a lot easier. It's really, we had a little tax season celebration with our team, and I'm just going to publicly throw it out there. Just really appreciate our tax team for all the hard work they put in this year. And I'm sure a lot of the listeners will say the same thing with theirs.
For sure. Yeah. And I know they did well because I did maybe 10 tax returns all year. So thanks, Dave. I appreciate that. Right. Kudos to the team for sure.
To the team for sure.
But I think the big learning lesson that we had is just kind of on what the team can handle and what the capacity, what to push hard on, what not to push hard on. And in light of that, we're able to bring another team member on, hopefully here within the next month or so, to add to our tax team as that. So we'd have 2 tax managers as opposed to just the one at the moment, because she's doing a phenomenal job, but everybody has their limits. We want to make sure that we respect that, with her time and so forth. So I think that was a huge learn that we've had. And I think every tax season, we're going to learn something new, right? Because we're completely virtual. Our team, a lot of our clients are virtual. Tax code's changing all the time. And we just want to make sure we're ahead of it. And one of the big things Dave instituted was the soft tax planner, which we talked about, coupled with a hard tax plan at the end of the quarter. I think it really gives a lot of insight and brings it basically taxes to the forefront. And so people really understand why they're paying something, and that's all people want to know is, why, and how much, and okay, that's cool. And how am I going to afford it? And that's where the forecasting comes into play and setting money aside to pay for it so they don't spend it, not realizing it. And so all that's huge benefits. I think we've learned a lot of lessons over the years to have that come. And I think this has probably been our most successful tax season ever. And I think we could probably say that every year, but this is definitely up there at the top.
Yep, definitely agreeing. So Jody said he did 10 tax returns. I did 0, so that's always good news for me. Although I think
that's consistent.
That's a good thing for our clients too.
I was gonna say I think I fall below our guy in terms of who needs to do tax returns. Like if we needed someone, we'd get
by
Zach.
Design, Jamie.
We'd get Zach in there before me, so that's a good thing. But no, yeah, I definitely appreciate all you do for the team, Dave. I enjoy working with you. As you know, I love bringing in you on my client calls and having you help out. So I appreciate you joining the show, and good topic. Appreciate it.
Enjoy this episode? Visit our website at summitcpa.net to get more tips and strategies for achieving modern CPA firm success. We're here to be a resource in this ever-changing industry.